After the DNC announced the Biden nomination via virtual roll call, most of the focus of the special session turned to the ban on contributions by foreign nationals to ballot issue campaigns. Republicans said that was pending and discussed for a while and that it was critical to pass it as soon as possible. Democrats said no one wants foreign money in elections, but this proposal was designed to hinder citizen-initiated campaigns like the amendment to overhaul the redistricting process, which is likely to come before voters this fall. I talked to two experts in campaign finance who both spoke out on the foreign money ban. First, Republican former Secretary of State Ken Blackwell. The rush has been on to pass this ban on foreign contributions in ballot issue campaigns. I mean, because of the redistricting amendment that's likely to come on the ballot this fall, right? I mean, I keep hearing lawmakers say this has been pending for a while, this is critical, but the rush is on because of that ballot issue this fall, right?
Well, no, I think the rush is on because there's been a heightened attention to the election integrity on many fronts. And while foreign money in our elections as it relates to candidates has been addressed, we addressed it in 2004. We, in fact, left a loophole, and that is, foreign dollars can influence a referendum. And so I think this is part of a cleanup effort that has been ongoing now for a number of months, if not years. And I really think that it's been interesting that the opportunity to fix this when the legislature was out of session came about with an effort to make sure that President Biden is on the agenda, on the ballot in November.
Why not just go ahead and ban all dark money from all sources? I mean, wouldn't that solve the problem and address some of the concerns that came out following the House Bill 6 nuclear power plant bailout scandal? Why not just have a ban on dark money from anybody?
Well, look, the fact if there's money that's transparently exchanged, I think there's nothing wrong with sunshine. But the reality is that we have an established body of law that allows folks to speak into efforts by American citizens, and in this case, Ohioans, that can protect the identity of the givers. As long as we know that the givers are American and those dollars are coming from American sources, I think that's the bottom line. I would have no problem with greater transparency, but the fact of the matter is that some of the best uses of so-called dark money has come from both sides of the aisle.
On that note, there was money that came from Catholic interests that fought issue 1, the abortion access amendment last fall. Is that a problem? Because couldn't some of that money be traced back to the Vatican?
Well, I don't think so. I think the philosophy can be traced back to the Vatican, but I don't think that the actual dollars were routed through a variety of sources, but originated in the Vatican. Believe me, there are enough Catholic interests in the United States with money to meet the need.
Now, Democrats have said that no one wants foreign money in ballot issues, and a Federal Election Commission opinion in 2021 says that the law that bans foreign contributions to candidates also extends to ballot issue campaigns as well. They say that this foreign money ban is just a way to sow fear and confusion around ballot issue campaigns and make it so that people don't want to get involved in them. Are you concerned about that?
I don't think so. I've talked with lawyers from across the country on both sides of the aisle who will tell you that there is still a loophole in Ohio law that allows for that money to be used in referendum, and we know that referenda now drives a lot of policy at the state level. So no, I think this is, let me be flip on this too. There's something that I call constructive redundancy. So why not just take this as a constructive redundancy? I don't think anyone wants to further the erosion of national and state sovereignty. And I think that this is also an effort to make sure that we strengthen the integrity of the concept of citizenship in our country. Look, I've crisscrossed the globe. I was chairman and co-chairman of a bipartisan effort funded by the Agency for International Development, and we've done these bipartisan efforts in elections. I can tell you across the globe. I can tell you there's not one country that I know that would be very happy to have the intrusion of foreign dollars in their elections in any shape, form, or fashion.
Republicans in the group that you've been working with on this, the Honest Elections Project, they've noted that the concerns about the 1630 Fund, which is a progressive dark money group that's gotten $250 million in donations from a Swiss billionaire. The 1630 Fund donated to the campaign to pass issue 1 last fall, but it also donated to a campaign to pass a drug and criminal justice initiative in Ohio in 2018. Now, that one did not pass. So, does foreign money really play a significant role in getting ballot issues passed, or is that really all on the voters of Ohio to decide?
No, I think in our open society, information is important, and the slant of that information and the motivation of who is advancing uh, that policy initiative, it should be very transparent. So I think this is consistent with transparency. That is not to say everybody who would try to skew an election or a referendum has been successful. But you know what we want is a situation where we do away with this whole notion of rules for thee, but not for me. We actually want the application of rules across the board on both sides of the aisle, and that means that if there's wrongdoing on the Republican side of the aisle, you smack the hand, and same for the Democratic side of the aisle.
Now, this bill does invest a lot of power in the Attorney General's office to go after these bad actors. Right now, the Attorney General is a Republican. The Attorney General may be a Democrat at some point. And these are partisan elected positions, Attorney General. Are you concerned at all about giving that much power to somebody who is a partisan elected official, no matter which party he or she is from?
Absolutely not. It's very hard to take politics out of politics, and you're absolutely right. Our attorney generals have run with a party affiliation, but I think that for the most part, we've been lucky to have folks of integrity, and they really do believe that justice is blind. Here's the reality. I think you have to invest in the attorney general because when there's wrongdoing, you have to be able to deal with the problem very, very quickly and in a very muscular way. And if you blink and you're bogged down in the back and forth of political argument, the wrongdoing is already done, and that's a problem. So you know, I would invest this sort of authority and muscularity in the attorney general, regardless of who the attorney general is. This is consistent with the rule of law, and I think most attorney generals that we've had are folks who abide by, both Democrat and Republican, who ultimately abide by the rule of law.
I want to ask you, as a former Secretary of State, is changing a law during an election year, especially a presidential election year, just a few months before a potential ballot issue could be before voters, is that going to be a problem? I mean, hasn't Ohio had a tradition of kind of avoiding making big election law changes during a presidential election year?
Well, I think as we're moving forward on this, particularly on the issue that we're talking about now, foreign money, no, it's not a problem. We need to make sure that the water isn't poisoned, and the way to do that is to make sure that the poison doesn't get in the water uh, whenever. So I think that's a this is a good time to make sure that there's not undue foreign influence. Protect our national sovereignty, protect the value of citizenship in the state of Ohio and the United States. And I would just say again, as I crisscross the globe during elections, I don't know of any other country of the 193 countries in the United Nations that openly invites foreign manipulation and influence in their elections.
And finally, asking you again as a former Secretary of State, you've spoken out on going ahead with the proposal that would get President Joe Biden onto the Ohio ballot, especially since there had been a Supreme Court fight to ensure former President Trump was on the ballot after he had been removed by Colorado. Now, for a totally different reason, Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose signed onto a brief in that Colorado case saying the removal of a candidate from the ballot in one state not only affects that state's election, but also has far-reaching ramifications in other states. It artificially alters momentum in relation to primaries and caucuses, therefore affecting the entire process. So should Frank LaRose have been fighting harder to get Biden onto the ballot?
Oh, I think in the final analysis, Frank knew that there has been fair play in the state of Ohio, and that ultimately uh, Joe Biden is going to be on the ballot in Ohio. I just think that we've just been served up with a brilliant opportunity to fix a loophole in our election policy and make sure that the integrity of the process is protected against foreign interests.
Is the 90-day deadline for presidential candidate certification too long? Would you like to see it shortened permanently?
I would like to see us to keep it as it is, but also keep the sense of fair play and accommodation that we've been able to show, regardless of who the candidate is that's falling a few days after that 90-day deadline. This is the beauty of our system, is that we are a two-party system, and as complicated and as cantankerous as it gets, I think it's still the best system in all the world.